Alright, so I asked my manager some questions earlier today, and I also asked my coworker Caleb these questions, and I'm gonna ask you these questions too, okay?
Okay.
So, if I said black implies white, would you understand what I mean by that?
Black implies white.
Yeah, black implies white. And I'm not talking about races or anything. I'm just talking about the literal colors black and white.
I mean, I guess it depends on like the context. I don't know.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, just because there's black doesn't mean there's gonna be white.
Alright, what if I said it like this? Alright, so black and white. That's the black and white, they're just colors. They're just different different variations of light, right?
Sure.
Okay. So instead of me saying black implies white, I could say dark implies light. Right? Does that make more sense?
I guess.
So, would you agree with that? Dark implies light? Do you understand that at least?
Like, when you say light, do you mean just that in general, or the brighter light?
What do you mean the brighter light?
Like, I don't know.
Like, if they're, like, alright, so whenever I say imply, I mean like basically, like, if there is darkness, does that mean that there is light?
I mean, in life, yes.
What do you mean by in life?
Like in nature or whatever, I should say. In nature, I would say. I'm thinking like art and shit. You know what I mean?
I'm not thinking art. I'm not thinking art.
You're just thinking nature and
I'm just thinking like in general. Like just
general.
in general, like just yeah.
Well, besides art, then yes, I would say dark implies light.
Now I'm not saying that like I feel like it would be the same way with art too. Because like with art, like if they're like I'm not saying that on a painting, you know, if someone just paints black, then there's only black. Like I'm saying like if there is the color paint, or if there is the color black in paint, you know, then that means that there's white also, right? Like somewhere, not necessarily on that painting or in the room, just like somewhere. I don't know, I feel like that's making it more confusing.
I mean, I don't know, dude.
Just like
It's just a weird argument. I'm not saying like
well,
your
no,
argument's
it's not
weird.
an
It's just a like I don't know.
It's not an argument, it's just a question. That's all it is. Alright. Alright, but yeah, so like if there is darkness, like then there must be light. Like that's what I'm saying. Or would it make more sense to say that if there's light, then there's dark?
I don't know, dude. I understand where you're coming, like what you're saying.
Like like black implies white.
There's
That's what I'm saying. Because if there is darkness, then that must mean that there is light somewhere, right?
I mean, yes.
Because if you didn't have any light, then it would just be dark. Like there would be nothing. Like there would be.
Whenever you ask me that, I am thinking of different circumstances, like a room full of light, like only light, no other object in the room. It's all gonna be light. There's not gonna be any darkness. And then you could say the same for a room full of darkness. There's not gonna be any light.
But like if there wasn't light, then like how would you know what darkness even is? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like how would the idea of darkness even be there? Because like I feel like you can have light without darkness, right? It's whenever there's no light that it's dark, that it becomes dark.
Shadows.
What do you mean shadows?
Shadows. Shadows are dark. Shadows are darkness.
Yeah. But it's caused by light.
Exactly.
So you're saying light implies darkness?
No, what you just said, just because there's light doesn't mean, I don't know, dude, I don't remember what you said, to be honest.
So just because there's light doesn't mean that there's darkness. Okay, well anyways. The next part is Self implies other. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, I guess.
As in, like, if there is a self, like if there is yourself, then that must mean that there are others too, right?
I mean, context. Are you talking if you're on a planet, or if some creature is on a planet by itself, like in a certain location on the planet, then that implies there must be others. Is that what you're saying?
No, no, no. I'm just talking about the idea
Oh my
of self,
God.
like you yourself. Okay? Like the idea of self.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So, if
So
there
if there
is
was
self,
so in order for self to even exist, there must have been others, is what you're saying.
there must be others. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. And that's the same thing with darkness. Like in order for darkness to exist, there must be light.
I think it's the other way around. I think in order for light to exist, there must be darkness.
You think?
I don't think there needs to be light in order for there to be darkness.
All right. All right. You think that? I don't know, man. I'm trying to think about that now. So, in order for there to be light, there must be darkness.
Because
Or
if
there to be darkness, there must be light.
let's bring back the rooms again. A pitch black room, nothing in it, no lights or anything. There's no lights there, so darkness exists without the light.
Mm-hmm.
Now the idea of it is different, but the actual thing, the actual presence.
The actual presence, like there is still dark. It's just there's no light in there.
Yeah, there doesn't need to be light for it to exist. Now with light, there needs to be darkness.
To be lit up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I might agree with you on that, actually. I might agree with you. Light implies dark. Alright, alright, alright. The next one, okay? Life implies death. Or death implies life.
I'd say death implies life is more.
Death implies life.
Yeah,
That's
more
what I'd say too. Because if there is a death, then that means that there is a life to be
Yeah.
had.
If there's a
Now-
life, that doesn't necessarily mean there's death.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're dead, that they did die. But if they're dead, then that means that they were alive at one point.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Happiness implies sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah, you agree
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah. In
Now,
order
would you
for
say
happiness to
sadness
exist, there
implies
must be
happiness?
Sadness implies happiness. Yeah.
Like, does it go both ways?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Like, without happiness, there wouldn't be sadness.
Yeah.
Really? All right. Yeah, I agree
Well, I
with
mean,
that, actually.
Yes. I don't know.
See, no, I think that's true because if you were sad, you know, like if you're just straight up like just sad, and you're never happy, and you've never known happiness, how would you know that you're sad? It would just feel normal.
Yeah.
Same goes for sadness.
So at
If
some
you're
point you would
ha-
have
or
to
if
feel
you're
happy
Yeah.
in order
And
to feel
so-
sadness.
If you're happy, but you're never sad, how would you know if you're happy? Because you've never experienced what it's like to not be happy. It would just feel normal.
Right.
So you wouldn't have any idea whether or not you're happy or not. Yeah. Now, last one that I've like thought of. Hope implies despair, but does despair imply hope?
What is despair?
Despair, it's just like
No hope.
pretty much. Despair it's like,
The complete loss or absence of hope.
yeah. So I say hope implies despair, but does despair imply hope?
Does despair imply hope?
Hope implies despair, but does despair imply hope?
I think it's the opposite.
You think despair implies hope, but does hope imply despair?
Yeah, I don't think hope implies despair.
See, I think it does. Why do you think it's the opposite?
Well, in order to be in despair, that means you've given up hope.
Doesn't necessarily mean that you've given up. It's just you don't have it.
Yeah, you have no hope.
It just means you don't have it. It doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
mean that you ever had it at one point. or
Yeah, but it
anything.
implies
Don't
there's
have
no
it.
hope. Now, hope does not imply, I don't know.
But if you're
I don't like
hopeful,
that one.
if you're hopeful, then that means that there's something. That means that there's despair. Like, if you have hope,
Yeah, but
then
if,
that means
if there's despair, that implies there's something to be hopeful for.
why is there something to be hopeful for?
Does it not?
Man, dude, I don't know, man. This one is difficult. This is just what I was thinking about at work, and I love it. What is despair? Despair means that there's something to be hopeful for. Man, it's so hard. I hate it. So you think despair implies hope?
I think they both imply each other.
You think they imply each other?
Yeah.
'Cause you see, I was thinking that you could be despaired, but there not be any hope, you know?
But if there's nothing to hope for, then what is there to be in despair of?
God, dude. I'm just trying to think of it. Oh my god. This is like fourth dimensional shit, you know? Like our minds can't comprehend it.
I mean, my mind can comprehend it.
Okay.
If there's no hope, or if there's nothing to be hopeful for, then what is there to be in despair of?
So what is there to be in despair of? Oh my gosh. If there's nothing to hope for, then what is there to be in despair of? It's really hard to understand, dude. I'm trying to like think of a situation.
Alright, so you're on an island, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're stranded. You're stranded on an island.
Okay.
So at first you'll probably be in hope of having somebody come rescue you.
Mm-hmm.
But then time goes on and you realize that's not going to happen, so now you're in despair. You have lost hope. You have no hope. There's an absence of hope. Now, let's say you're on an island again, but on vacation. You want to be there. You have no hope of finding or hoping somebody finds you. But then you're also not in despair. Since
But you see, like,
what?
oh man. See, like that hope. But all right. So on that island.
Oh, mic unplugged.
Just set him. Alright, so you're on that island, and you know you're hoping that someone comes and rescues you, right?
Mhm.
And then that means that, oh my gosh, I hate it. So you're on that island, and you have hope that someone's gonna come rescue you. Then that would mean,
And now, okay, now let's flip it around a little bit. You're on the island, and you're stranded, and you're immediately in despair, thinking there's no hope. Like
like,
there's
no one's gonna come rescue
yeah,
you.
nobody's coming to rescue you. But that implies that you can be hopeful.
It implies that you can be hopeful.
Yeah, but that person is not wired to be hopeful.
Man, I feel like this one's, man, I don't know. Maybe you're right.
I'd say despair implies hope more than hope implies despair, in my opinion. I don't remember what your stance was.
My stance was hope implies despair. Because in order to be hopeful, then that must mean that you're able to be despair also. Like you can't be despaired without also being able to have hope. So if there is hope, then that means there's despair. If there's despair, then that means there's hope.
The reason why I think the despair implies hope works better is because if you can be hopeful and always be hopeful. There's a chance you're never gonna be in despair. But if you're in despair, there's a guarantee that you were once hopeful, I think, at least.
See, but like, I feel like if you're hopeful, you know, then that means that you could be in despair. Like you could not be hopeful. You could just not have hope.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea that you're hoping for something means that there's the there's the possibility that whatever you're hoping for, like, doesn't happen, I guess. But like,
Yeah, but you have hope, so you're not in despair.
yeah, but it means that there could be despair.
There could be, but it doesn't imply despair.
Doesn't mean that there is despair.
Despair, you've lost hope. So despair implies hope at some point.
Despair implies hope.
In my, okay, whenever I'm going off the definition of despair, the
It's the
loss of
absence of
hope.
hope.
Yeah, the loss
The
of hope.
loss of hope. See, I'm going.
It's
by
the complete loss
the
or absence of hope.
See, I'm saying it's the absence of hope. As in,
But what
hope
is-
not there?
I don't think. I don't know.
And you're just despair. You might be right though. Like honestly, like I'm genuinely thinking that you're probably right.
The noun is the complete loss or absence of hope. The verb is lose or be without hope.
All right, so like, if you're despaired
Lose
though,
hope. Give
this
up.
is why I'm thinking
lose
you're
heart.
right. This is why I'm thinking you're right. If you're despaired, and I don't know, if you have despair, then it's like, how would you know? I'm trying to think. I don't know, man. Maybe this is too vague. Maybe it's too vague.
Yeah. Do you have any others? Or is that it?
I think that's the last one I have that I can think of,
Alright, think of
or
more.
that I thought of at least. Think of more. I don't fucking know.